Sort of like a crossover between the Pirates of the Caribbean and the How to Train Your Dragon series. The Sea Beast is a wonderful story about the legends of the wars between water monsters and the hunters that go after them. But as it's said in the film, you can be a hero and still be wrong. So how righteous are these hunters in their adventures to protect their homes? I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is the Sea Beast characters, good to evil. As usual, we'll be starting with the most good character and working our way down to the most evil. These characters are the good. Our gold medal of good has to go to the stowaway, Maisie Brumble. Maisie starts her journey off in a children's home but sneaks out and ends up stowing away on the inevitable. Despite Jacob's desire to send her home, she's able to butter up Captain Crow and convince him to keep her on the ship. Maisie initially follows Crow's and Sarah Sharp's orders in her excitement of being on the ship, but then goes against them following Jacob's words of concern during the fight with the Red Bluster. When she and Jacob are shipwrecked due to Red, Maisie manages to prevent Jacob from killing the beast after she has a touching encounter with it. She then questions if the stories of the hunters have been wrong the whole time and wants to try to put an end to the war.
What if we just left him alone?
Maisie then manages to convince Red to take them to Rum Pepper Island, pulling spears out of the beast's hide along the journey. Maisie, alongside Jacob, tried to convince Red to not fight the Royal Navy when encountered, but was injured in the process. When she recovers, she attempts to attack Captain Crow for poisoning Red and taking her as a trophy, but is stopped by Jacob. She tries several times to convince both Jacob and Sarah to help Red when the beast is taken captive, but it initially seems to fall on deaf ears. In the end, Maisie manages to stop Red from killing Captain Crow after Sarah and Jacob help release her, and outs the royals for lying about the stories of the beasts. She rallies the Kingdom of White Rock behind her to stop hunting the monsters and let them be. Our silver medal of good has to go to Jacob Holland, the man who killed 5 sea beasts in 2 days. Jacob shows from the get-go that he cares about his captain and his crew, being willing to take over the inevitable once Red is taken down. He often motivates the crew that being a hunter means having a great life and dying a great death.
Every hunter lives a great life!
He also reminds Captain Crow of the honor code of hunters when a fellow ship is under attack from a different beast, coercing Crow to temporarily abandon his desire for revenge. When the crew of the Inevitable comes to claim their bounty from the royals and are denied, Jacob is the one to offer a contest between them and the Royal Navy to see who would take down the Red Bluster first. If they take the beast down, the royals are to allow them to continue their profession. However, if the Royal Navy is to take it down, then Jacob says that they will abandon beast hunting as the royals wish. He quickly forms a protector bond with Maisie, unwilling to hand over the Crow after the failed battle with Red for fear of what may happen to her. He attempts to kill the beast after they're shipwrecked, but stops at Maisie's request. He also goes out and gathers food for the two of them while they're shipwrecked. He's initially suspicious of Red being able to help with Maisie's influence, but eventually comes around for the beast. He helps Maisie pull spears out of Red's hide, and tries to convince Red as well to not fight the Royal Navy. He fights against Captain Crow in an attempt to try to convince the captain to let the beast go, and eventually vows to never hunt sea beasts ever again, settling down as a family with Maisie. Our bronze medal of good and the end of this section has to go to Sarah Sharp. As loyal of a first mate as you can find, Sarah dedicates herself to the crew of the Inevitable and Captain Crow. She fights in the battle against the Brickleback and is ready to fight when negotiations with the royals start to sour. After Maisie's arrival, Sarah gives her a knife to defend herself and reminds the young girl that she is to follow orders lest Sarah end up dealing with her. Sarah also is the one to convince the captain after the battle to return to town in order to repair the ship before taking on Red. She does this again after the failed battle, and tries to sway Captain Crow from making a deal with Gwen Batterby, but is shut down. Sarah watches over Maisie after her injury and helps to free Red after Maisie manages to convince her to do so, recognizing that the poison didn't slow down the fight inside Red. With the good characters wrapped up, we now move into more neutral territory. These characters fall in the gray area. At the top of this section, we have the Red Bluster, or Red for short. Red is seen as the largest threat to the seas and is responsible for Captain Crow losing his right eye. This beast is extremely smart and tenacious, not letting a myriad of spears in its hide slow it down and attempting to pull the Inevitable into the sea. Red forms a bond with Maisie after it unknowingly brings her and Jacob to a deserted island, realizing that the young girl means no harm. She still fights against Jacob, who sees her as a threat, but eventually warms up to him through Maisie's influence. Despite attempts to stop her, Red follows through with her assault on both the Royal Navy and the Inevitable's crew in order to defend herself after years of war. After she recovers from her poisoning and is freed by Maisie and Sarah, she decides to go after Captain Crow, but only stops when Maisie tells the beast that killing the captain will continue the war between mankind and beasts. Following after is the crew of the Inevitable. This crew is made up of a multitude of people with varying levels of experience, but they all enjoy their lives as beast hunters. They occasionally become doubtful about the length of their existence, but are motivated by Jacob when he tells them that their scars and the thrill of death show their strength. They also fall into similar doubts about Gwen Batterby and her deals, knowing that all their lives and the fate of the ship may fail if things go south. In the end, they too are swayed by Maisie's words and choose to stop hunting the sea beasts. And rounding out our gray area is Captain Crow. Crow is considered a legend across the seas with the stories of the numerous beasts he's killed, and how his one desire is to get revenge against the Red Bluster.
I've never run from a fight and I won't start now.
He took Jacob in when he was adrift at sea as a child, and trained him into the hunter he became. Crow's motivations are consistently tested. He's initially unwilling to save a fellow beast hunter as revenge, was nearly in his grasp, but he was swayed to assist with coercion from both Jacob and Sarah. Later, when Sarah tries to address the honor code with him after the battle with the Red Bluster, Crow chooses to ignore it and focuses solely on his path for revenge. Finally, we come to the characters who stand by their wrong choices. These characters are the evil. Our bronze medal of evil has to go to Gwen Batterby. It's said that no good comes from making deals with this woman, and that the rates she charges for her wares are not worth getting involved over. However, she offers Captain Crow her creation, the Hand of God, a poisonous cannon-propelled harpoon that can spread and kill the beast quickly.
It's me most terrible creation.
This weapon does prove to be effective to a degree, but at the potential cost of the lives of several people when the poison wears off. Our silver medal of evil has to go to Admiral Hornigold and the Royal Navy. Hornigold is the one to inform the King and Queen that Captain Crow allowed the Red Bluster to get away, as he chose to honor the Beast Hunter's code, thus putting the lands in danger as it's seen as the most dangerous creature in the sea. He then tells Crow that he and the Royal Navy will take over in hunting the beasts, rendering them obsolete. He's willing to fight against Crow's initial disgust at the decision, but comes to agree to Jacob's terms in the competition of who's to kill the beast first. We later see him and the Navy attempt to fight Red when she catches sight of them, but their ship is smashed in half by the beast. They're also initially ordered to fight Red when the poison wears off, but don't do so after hearing Maisie's words and the general deciding not to go through with the final attack. Finally, the gold medal of evil goes to the King and Queen of White Rock. They were initially responsible for providing bounties to hunters who brought back trophies of slaughtered beasts to prove the seas were safe, but eventually decided against that idea. The royals said that by Captain Crow abandoning the slaughter of the Red Bluster, he was essentially continuing to make the seas unsafe for travel and dooming the land. They then decided that the Royal Navy was going to carry on the task so that they didn't have to pay the hunters anymore, and thus making their profession obsolete. When Captain Crow rages about this decision, the Queen is quick to order him to be arrested, and the Inevitable be decommissioned because of his outbursts. She is eventually swayed by Jacob's suggestion at a contest to see who kills the Red Bluster, as he makes a point of the royals win regardless of who takes down the beast. At the end of the film, it's revealed that the royals have been providing propaganda about the dangerous nature of the sea beasts for generations, when the creatures were only fighting back in self-defense. They use this fear-mongering tactic to grow their empire and influence, but are disgusted when Maisie reveals this truth to the people. The Queen attempts to influence the military to fight Red one last time, but to no avail, so she and her husband flee in cowardice. And that's the end of our morality spectrum. And with that complete, let's wrap things up with our sinner medals. The Darwin medal, unfortunately, has to go to Maisie. Though the idea of wanting to be a beast hunter of the seas is exciting, it's not worth stowing away for, especially as a child. The Pride medal goes to Jacob. He's easily bothered by Maisie's words about him not currently being a captain, and having no real authority over her presence on the ship. The Sloth medal unfortunately goes to Sarah, though she uses her words to try to dissuade Captain Crow from his revenge plot several times. She doesn't act on them until the very end, when she could have done something sooner. The Wrath medal goes to Captain Crow. His main focus is on revenge, and it only grows in intensity throughout the adventure. The Envy medal also goes to Maisie. She initially desired to get out of her life at the children's home, and become a beast hunter like her parents and heroes in her book. The Greed medal goes to the King and Queen of White Rock. They didn't want to continue to pay bounties to the hunters and built their empire upon their wealth. Finally, the Lust medal goes to Captain Crow. He wants nothing more than to finally get revenge on the Red Bluster, that it becomes his sole focus. But let us know in the comment section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.